right, Bill of Impaler, welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
Likewise, it's been way too many years.
Yes.
So, tell us, what's been going on with Impaler over the last few years?
Well, just kind of what we've been doing all along. We just keep plugging away and making CDs and doing shows. I guess things got a little weird there during COVID, because we actually played, we did our first unplugged set that we've ever done, and we did it at the Minnesota History Center in conjunction with a First Avenue display that was going on there. So we played our first unplugged show ever on a Tuesday night, and by Friday, COVID happened like big time, and that's when they shut down, the Twin Cities, Minnesota, St. Paul and Minneapolis, kind of locked down, and so that was very surreal. And so for a long time, we couldn't play shows, and so we decided to record our CD.
Before we get to that, I'm already puzzled. How would Impaler's music sound as an unplugged?
It was fun. It was actually...
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's the funny thing, is we're going to do the unplugged show, but none of our guys have acoustic guitars. So, but Brad works at a Capitol Guitar Shop, so he was able to procure some nice acoustic guitars. So we rehearsed, for a few weeks before the show, and then we figured out which songs would, be complemented or apply to acoustic guitar versions, and it was a lot of fun. I'd like to do another one actually. Sometime I might have to send you a snippet or a song or two that was recorded.
That would be great.
Yeah.
How did you adjust your vocals? Because your vocals actually would be, probably take a lot of...
You mean different?
Yeah.
Different,
like
different approach?
How did you sing?
I just kind of like I do, it turned out really well, and people enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I guess it was kind of a good thing that we did it, and then we couldn't do anything for a while. So it was a fun experience, and we had that to kind of hold us over until we were able to play again. So it was even a longer spell before we could play an electric show again, with COVID. And you'll have to hear it and decide for yourself, but people really enjoyed it. And we picked songs that lent themselves to the acoustic guitar, because sometimes people write, these guys, they'll pick up acoustic and pick out a riff and then transfer it over to electric guitar, So some of the songs are actually created on an acoustic guitar. So they worked really well.
Mm-hmm. Were there any changes to the band over the last few years, personal-wise?
Yeah, well, we've had a couple people come and go. Tom Croxton, the drummer that was on a lot of the stuff in the early 2000s through the mid 2000s. Aaron Ryan came back. He was the drummer on Wake Up Screaming. He's our drummer now. So guys come back home again. They leave for a while for whatever reason, and then they come back. Mike Torak, an original member, had been in the band for a little while. We put out an album called Cryptozoology. And then Brad, who was in the band when you saw us at Smiler Coogan's in Chicago, he was out of the band for a while. He came back again, and he's been in the band now for a number of years again, after his first stretch in the band. So, yeah. So it's kind of like I got all these friends, from the band, and we keep good relationships, and then as time goes on, and the time is right for them, and to come back, they do.
So we have a new album out, right?
Yes.
Let's show the record and let's get inside out.
It's the Great Hereafter.
All right, there it is.
And so I think as I was starting to mention, it was during the COVID time, and we couldn't play any shows, so we decided, well, let's write some new music. And so we kind of put a little bit of a time frame on it, because for a while we didn't even rehearse. And then so when we got together and started rehearsing again, it was probably in May. And so we said, okay, let's write through the summer, and by mid-September we're going to record what we have, written. And that's what we did. We just wrote songs all summer long, and then we recorded in September, and we had a little special early release on Krampusnacht of that year in December, because we do an annual Merry Krampus show. It's kind of our seasonal show, but that year we could not do it because of COVID. So we kind of tried to make it special for our fans by releasing the album on that day for a special, mail order release. And then it was officially released in February 2021. Mm-hmm. Was when it was distributed through our MVD. And it was fun, and it was weird because we couldn't go out and play, so we were just kind of forced when we went to the practice space to work on new material. That's what we did, and I'm really happy with it. We recorded it at 1459 Studios, and Will Marvarellis did all the engineering and the producing, and he was really great to work with him. And I think it sounds really great. People have to make their own decisions about that too. So
true. Can you go through the songs and tell me what each track is all about?
Yeah,
because there are a lot of great stories in your songs.
Well, thank you. Well, so the opening track is called "There Be Ghosts Here," and there's a musician that's in the Twin Cities that I've been friends with ever since we were in our late teens, early 20s. He played in a band called Paradox, and he's a really gifted musician. He plays guitar and keyboards, and so him and I have stayed in touch over the years because we both have this love of horror movies and old horror movies, Universal. And so when we were going to put the album out, I wanted an intro to it, and so I said, John, I'd love to do something with you. Why don't you write us a spooky piano, intro? And he did, and he did a great job with it. So that's the intro. It's kind of an instrumental, with some sound effects in and out. And, it's a good warm up to the album. And then it goes into Sonic Freak Show, which Sonic Freak Show was the title of our demo tape when we first came back after Wake Up Screaming. We had some years where we weren't together. We did a couple shows with the original members, and it was kind of a decision that some of them didn't want to go on with Impaler. So I put a new Impaler together with these guys that were in a band called Iron Fist, a hardcore band that was from Minneapolis. So what we did is we recorded 6 songs and we put out a demo tape called Sonic Freak Show to give away free at our shows to get people, introduced to our new music, because it had been a few years since we've been, in the public eye. And so our guitar player, Brad, he said, Sonic Freak Show was such a great title for that demo. He goes, you should write a song called that. So I said, yeah, I can do that. So I whipped up some lyrics, and he had a really cool riff that I think really sounds, to me, I was telling him this the other day, I said Sonic Freak Show riff is really new wave of British heavy metal sounding to me, the main riff. And so I really enjoyed that. And then the next song is called Thermonuclear Man, and I have a huge love for comic books and sci-fi movies and that type of thing, horror movies too. And so the lyrics were pretty much, pursuing that vein of a superhuman man that's thermonuclear. So he lives in the future and he lives in the past. He lives in them both because his powers are vast. And Court wrote that, and that's a real ripper. It's a fast song. And the whole album is pretty fast, actually, to tell you the truth. The next track is the title track, and that was the first song that was written by our new guitar player, Andy Radio, who is an old friend. He's comes from a band called Rip Snorter, who we did several splits with back in the late 90s. And when we had an opening, he always said, I'd love to be an Impaler. I really would like to be an Impaler. And so when we had an opening, I called him up and I said, would you like to be an Impaler?
And what did he say?
He said, yeah.
Okay.
And so he joined us, and so he wrote that song, and we're gonna play that tonight. It's that's kind of an atmospheric ripper, kind of moshy, atmospheric, if you can wrap your head around that terminology. And then after that is Krampus Has Returned, and we're big fans of horror movies and underground and cryptozoology and old mythology and all that kind of stuff. So Krampus is this character who we always I thought, God, he's the perfect heavy metal icon for Christmas time, because he used to go around with the old ancient Santa Claus and punish the bad children, he'd whip them. And so we started doing a Merry Krampus show every December, and it's kind of become a traditional thing that we do every year. And so we had a song called Krampus, and then so this was kind of the sequel to that song. This one's called Krampus Has Returned, and so it kind of picks up and carries forward that thread of the original. And then So Much Blood is the song after that. That's another one that Court wrote, and that's a straightforward ripper too. It's about messy relationships. It's about how love can hurt sometimes. It's called So Much Blood. And then the next song is called If Death Were a Horse, and this song has a lot of meaning to us because our bass player, when Court wasn't in the band, his name was Eric Mitchell, and he was the bass player from that Sonic Freak Show demo all the way through Old School Ghouls. He was in the band, and his hearing started to go, so he decided he was going to step down, but he still helped us all the time. He would come to shows and he'd run Smoke Machine or do anything we needed to help us out. Sometimes he even filled in. If Court couldn't be at a show, he'd step up and fill in and play with us, and so he continued to be a friend. He got prostate cancer, and he passed away, and when he was actively dying, we recorded this song, and I had written the lyrics, and it was in my mind when I wrote the lyrics to the song, and so it's forever connected to Eric Mitchell, our friend and former bass player. And it's also was the first kind of single, if you could say, that we're not really a singles band per se, but we have a 7-inch that came out, and If Death Were a Horse is the main track on that EP, and it came out prior to the Great Hereafter. So in a sense, it's the first single, I guess you'd call it. And then it wraps up with These Ghoulish Things, which is about Impaler. All the lyrics are kind of about us and about how we've, our philosophy and how we've endured through all the years and all the different things. And it's kind of metaphoric to the band and our existence, so I guess we're ghoulish things. So.
Now, will this album inspire any kind of a new show? Because you always have a very visual show.
Yeah. Well, we play quite a few songs off of this album. As far as any new theatrics that go with it, I can't say that we really have anything that's new that coincides with this album. It's just a continuation of what we keep doing over all these years.
Bill, other than music, what else is going on in your life?
Well, I still work in healthcare. I'll be 61 this fall, so I'm looking forward to retiring in a few years and spending time with my dog, Lulu. And I work in physical therapy. I work for a physical therapy clinic in Egan, which is the city I live in. And I live less than 10 minutes from work, so it's really nice. I got this job last Christmas. I transferred over because I couldn't really pass up a 10-minute ride to work,
To be able to do metal in your 60s is quite impressive. What keeps you going?
I don't know. I guess, in my mind, I still feel like I'm, 20. I don't know. I've had a lot of experience, and I do draw from that, from all the years, because you'd be foolish not to. But I guess my love and enthusiasm for music, for rock. I love to rock out, and it's a good time. And I love the guys in my band, and we have fun together, and it just keeps me going. Hope to keep going. It's like I tell people this. It's kind of funny. So when you're a real underground band like us, you're really DIY, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of bands that have gone into their, very late 60s, Motorhead, and, so many bands now. I mean, like Raven, all these different bands. But, so many of these bands, they have road crews and drivers and buses and things like that. Those are things that we just don't have. So we actually have to go, and do all the driving if we tour, and set up and manage the merchandise and all that stuff, And so when you get to be our age, I guess it is kind of a feat in a sense, because you do a lot of things, It's not a lazy existence to be in a band, I will tell you that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. It was so good to see you again.
Likewise. Always a pleasure.